It's something to try and figure out, but I guess the government also needs a little bit of time to also, because they're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall, right, to help, and need to sort it out too. So I think if we can just be a little bit more patient, we might have some clearer directives in that area. Yep. With the symphony, I know that there's like our management has done some planning in phases and is just kind of trying to work with the board to take it step at a time.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, Larry, you are muted. I will unmute you.
Okay, good. Okay.
There you go.
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm Larry O'Farrell, chair of the board of the Canadian Network for Arts and Learning. And it looks like, it looks like that Jennifer and I don't really have to do much leading up the conversation. All we have to do is open the screen and everybody starts to compare notes, which is what this is really about, of course. But we have a little program and I hope we have some questions to guide the conversation. Although you're really starting in on question number 1 already, but Jennifer will do it in an orderly way. So just I have to say a couple words about our organization. The Canadian Network for Arts and Learning is a charitable foundation recognized by the Government of Canada. We have as our mission to bring together people in the arts and learning sector for exchange and communication and sharing of research and sharing of best practices. We have had a very big project recently on creating the Canadian map for arts and learning, which I think you will all know about. And right now we happen just coincidentally to be, and maybe some of you are doing something like this. We're working on a grant from the Canada Council for the Arts, which is specifically aimed at developing digital strategies. So it kind of fits in with what's happening in the world right now, where we really can't get together in person, and we look to some technology. So that'll be kind of one of the focuses. But really, what we'd like to do is to start with what's happening on the ground with you. And before we even go there, I'd like to invite Jennifer to Jennifer. Okay, here we have our staff here. We have Jennifer Petrilli, Jennifer Wade, and then she's our managing director. We have Caitlin Bois, and Caitlin's the one wearing the earphones because she's our most technical person, and she's the builder of the map. And I saw, is Nisa, are you here? Nisa, I saw Nisa's name, Nisa Sills.
I am here.
There she is, there she is. Okay, and Nisa is our researcher. So when we have this conversation, we're recording it, and Nisa will put together a report about what kind of issues are happening here and what kind of possible solutions are we thinking about and trying. So when we have our conversation, I think it's really just important to have the conversation. But in addition to that, we're going to try to move forward with what we learn from it. Okay. So welcome. So thank you all for joining, and a very warm welcome to all of you. And I will now turn it over to Jennifer, who's going to explain, make sure that we all know how to manage the Zoom platform, and then she'll lead us through making sure that everyone introduces themselves and we find out what's happening on the ground.
Thank you, Larry. So I have I've just muted everyone, and but you are able to unmute yourself, as most of you have figured out. So at the bottom, you can pull up a menu that shows mute and also stop or start your video. So we know that some people just want to listen in, and that's totally fine. And kind of how we're looking at managing that is, if you just want to listen in, don't enable your video. But if you don't have video and you still want to participate, then send me a text, a chat, and I'll still be able to call on you and know that you're interested in participating. Hopefully you have that capability. During if you go at the bottom, you can pull up participants. If you click on participants, there you'll see that you'll have your ability to raise your hand. And so as we go through, so that everybody gets a turn to say what they want to say. If you have something to say, please do go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll go in sequence. Also, if you can pull up chat. So as we're going, if you have something that you want the group to know, you can put it in the chat there. You are also able to send private messages to other participants. So you can do it either to everyone or privately. And we find that the chat, people are putting a lot of good resources in the chat, links to things that we're talking about, etc. So please do make use of that. Also, throughout our discussion today, I'm going to be launching a few polls, and that's so that we can get some quantitative data on kind of what you're dealing with. But these, just to let you know, they're completely anonymous, confidential. I have no way of knowing who has submitted what. So please do feel free to take part in those polls, and then we'll share that information afterwards in terms of the percentages of who answered what, probably in our email tomorrow. So I think hopefully everyone is pretty familiar, and as we go about, like I said, just if you want to take part, enable your video. If not, I won't call on you unless you let me know. So to kick off the chat, so we're gonna go around the room basically. If you want to say your name, your title, I know most of you know each other, or quite a few of you know each other, maybe the organization that you work with, if that's applicable, and basically one sentence telling us kind of the immediate effects of the social distancing and the self-isolation, kind of what you're dealing with at this moment. And we know things will continue to change. So we will start with Anne-Marie Switzer. So go ahead. Yeah.
I'm Anne-Marie Switzer. I work for the Winspear Center and Edmonton Symphony Orchestra in Edmonton, Alberta. The impact has been very great. Our center is shut down, essentially. I would say basically the entire staff is working from home. Lots of meetings going on with our senior management in their planning for what happens next, but all of our events and educational programs and just all of the programs are canceled until May 7th. That's the communication that we're giving to our community and our patrons. And yeah, just navigating this like kind of everybody else is. And so I'm very happy to connect with all of you and see what you have brainstormed and what we might be able to take away from each other. Alison Kenny Gardhouse is probably the person that most of you know best from the Winspear Center. She just is in other meetings, and so I'm hopefully going to represent well. There's also just on the call the Associate Director for our musical creativity at the Winspear, who is listening in online as well.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Alan Roberts.
Well, I'm Alan Roberts. I'm the director of Cano Theatre and Arts Center in Fort McMurray. We are owned and operated by Cano College. We're closed and we've shut down. We've canceled our remaining concerts for the year. We present as well as we produce. We operate community theater, what we call semi-pro. Our last show of the season has been postponed, we hope. We're just trying to figure out what that means. It's not just like, we're all restless. We've had 32 events canceled up until May 23rd. That's sort of our holding time, with 38 performances in there. I like to say that we're sort of the focal point of the community, where a lot of people come to us, because we also have an art gallery. We have two of our lovely exhibitors online here as well, with Liana and Sharon. I don't know what else to say. I think we're kind of all in that same restless boat, where we're just trying to make what we've canceled happen still. Like, we're determined, but just don't know what that means yet.
Right. Okay, thank you, Alan. Next, Hanna Fridhed.
Hi, My name is Hanna, and I'm also with Keanu Theatre. I'm also the artistic director for an independent company up here called Theatre Just Because in Fort McMurray, and I'm the secretary of Alberta Drama Festival Association. Like Alan said, we've had to cancel a lot of our events at Keanu for the ADFA. That meant we had to cancel all of the regional festivals, including the provincial festivals of 2020, which was sad, but yeah. Theatre Just Because didn't have any programming left this season, so we are moving ahead with the potential online programming in the next week or so.
Okay, great. I want to hear more about that. Heather MacMillan.
That's my married name. So some people know me as that. And I'm the Indigenous Visual Arts Programmer at the Art Gallery St. Albert. And we had to cancel everything. All our arts programming is on hold for the next exhibition. We have Nintawin right now that's still up. We haven't shipped it back. We're looking at creative ways to keep people engaged on virtual programming. So it's kind of scary, you know. Myself, all my programs that I had scheduled for right up till June has now been canceled. So that's really unfortunate. So that's where we're at. And as an artist, I have an exhibition, as I mentioned to Helen earlier, and some of the other folks. It's called Whiskey Script, and it's in Kenora right now at the Muse, the Douglas Family Arts Center, and my artwork is sitting there until they can ship it at some time. So this is also affecting me personally as an artist.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Heather. Other Heather Inglis.
I am the artistic producer of Workshop West Theatre in Edmonton. We had a show that was out on tour, Cafe Daughter, that was in Kamloops that was cancelled. And I also am outgoing artistic director of another theatre company, Theatre Yes. We've also had a production cancelled. The Theatre Yes production there's a considerable monetary loss, so we're trying to think about that and how it is that we can reschedule, knowing that theater venues in Edmonton are often booked 18 months in advance. We've also had a casino canceled, which in Alberta essentially means that there's a large portion of money that canceled, postponed, but we don't know till when. It could be 18 months to 2 years till that chunk of money comes in for us. So like everyone else, trying to navigate how to move forward and how to plan effectively. Specifically, I have concerns about how to plan next year, not knowing how long we actually are going to be under lockdown. And some people are saying there will be a resurgence in the fall, which makes me gun shy about how much I plan because I don't want to cancel anything again.
Great. Okay, thank you, Heather. Helene?
So I'm a crafter. All of my markets.
Oops.
15th, and they've been canceled. All of my markets have been canceled. March, April. So far, May still stands. We'll see how that goes. I'm also VP for Carfax, Alberta, and I don't speak for them at the moment, but we are still, our employees are working from home, and we also we will be holding webinars. So these are accessible to our clientele, the artists that we support, the membership, and I believe these two coming up are done with Carfax, Saskatchewan too. So market cancel left, right, and center with refund, sometime without refund. So it's money down the drain and no money coming in.
Right, thank you. Liana?
Hi, I am unmuted. Oh, great. I'm Liana. I'm the Executive Director for Arts Council Wood Buffalo, so located in Fort McMurray. And like everyone, we have moved our work home with us. We're luckily able to do that. We did have to postpone 2 events. One was a writers' festival. We actually canceled earlier in, gosh, was it the end of February or the beginning of March? Just due to concerns from the American partners, we had planned to bring several authors from internationally into the community. A lot of concern about them getting stranded up here. So we had decided to postpone that to the fall. And we've canceled another Making It in Music piece that we were doing in partnership with some organizations up here. Again, postponed to the fall, hopefully, we're being optimistic. And we were able, though, to continue our artist in residency program through using Zoom, much like this, which is going really, really well. So fortunately, we are still able to employ some artists. Our role as the Arts Council is to support the growth and success of the artists, so we don't necessarily run programming beyond teaching artists how to be business people. So we're pretty sure we can continue a lot of online learning and be able to pay artists to still conduct those courses. So we're excited about these kind of platforms. It's helpful. It's not, we're not in the boat of Keanu Theatre or other theater companies trying to do roles and all of that kind of stuff. Our pieces can be conducted through email and phone and so on. So we're in a good position that way. Certainly as far as keeping our organization going, the municipal government is our major funder, and they have advised that we are secure for sure for this year, which is very comforting. So our staff will stay on and we can still offer our programs and services however we can figure that out. But as far as sponsorships and fundraising throughout the year, all of that, of course, is kind of out the window. So we'll see what it looks like as we navigate through. But hopefully this will come to an end sooner rather than later.
Yes, thank you, Liana. Nathene Arthur?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm Nathene Arthur. I'm in Cochrane, Alberta. I'm the current Vice President of ARMTA, the Registered Music Teacher Association of Alberta, and the President of Calgary ARMTA. So about 500 members. They're teachers. A lot of them teach in their own homes or go into other people's homes. So it's really difficult with the social distancing and isolation part. A lot of teachers are just losing their income. We need contact with our students, and so there's a big learning curve for many of them. No one was prepared to go online, so we're doing a lot of webinars on Zoom and Skype and Internet MIDI from Conservatory Canada, different things. Our biggest issue right now is we've canceled recitals, exams from the different national groups like Royal Conservatory of Music or Conservatory Canada have been canceled or delayed. Festivals are being canceled, which is affecting thousands of students. Our teachers are concerned overall about how to maintain this contact with students online. We're learning that, but there's also the issue of income, is that a lot of the students, if their parents are losing their jobs, are unable to continue lessons, which of course then will spin down to these teachers no longer having money for food on the table as well. So we're sort of small grassroots little teachers all over the province. So this is a big concern for us, the whole economy, in addition to the fact that we love music and we still want to enjoy that with our students.
Right, thank you. Sharon.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm also with Arts Council Wood Buffalo. Hello to Alan and Liana, and to Ellen, now that she's no longer in Fort McMurray. A big chunk of what I do, I actually presented at Convergence about the role of arts in disaster, which is kind of ironic. My role currently is arts recovery post wildfire. So a lot of what I do is already geared to solving some of these problems. And I'm fortunate that Liana and the crew at Arts Council we're all pretty flexible. So the biggest hurt for me is that a big chunk of what I do is reaching out into the rural and Indigenous communities, and that is just not going to happen right now. Beyond the inability to get in, there are some limitations in terms of availability of access to internet. So some of those things just plain can't be delivered online. So while that is on hold, we're looking at innovative ways to get to those communities. But right now, we're in full-on delivery mode for some of the other things that we're involved in, and have the good fortune of the experience behind us from, if I ever thought a disaster was a good thing, we learned a lot to bring us up to scale on what we're doing now. So we're working on, we've already successfully delivered, as Liana said, one of our artisan residency programs online. We'll look at transferring that into what we're doing and taking advantage of the time at home. So right now working on getting to sold a series of workshops that will now deliver somehow online to help artists understand how to get their product to market, take advantage of this downtime to do research, help them with some marketing skills, do what we can to take advantage of the time and keep people busy. So just working away, doing it at home.
Great.
Glad to have my job, and personally finding some time. I actually cleaned my studio and started to paint again. So there you go.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. Shawn Kinley.
There we go. I'm back. So yeah, I'm a freelance performer here in Calgary, and I'm actually not in Canada too much. I just got back from a tour in Europe where 1 month of the tour was canceled because of the virus. I escaped from Germany just before the airports were closed down there. And a senior member at the Loose Moose Theatre here in Calgary. Exciting times, crazy for all of us. I'm sure you've all had exciting experiences with this, and I'm sure we're all going to get through it. I've noticed in my area already dozens of theaters already starting up online shows and online classes. So I'm just interested in seeing how things are evolving here in Alberta.
Great, thank you, Shawn. So Sneaky G, don't know who that is.
I'm Rita Thurr. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm a Calgary rep for the provincial ARMTA that we have here in Alberta, and I have the same concerns that Nathene has, mainly because I have a music school of my own, and because of all of this, a lot of the students, and because of parents not working and with all their concerns, my teachers aren't going to have any work. And so that's a big issue for us. And like Nathene said, all our recitals right till June have been canceled, our music marathon, etc. So we're going to try and see what we can do if everything is all calm after the storm come September, and do some of these things again. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And Sydney Lancaster. There you go. Are you on? Sydney?
Oh, I'm sorry. My whole screen froze.
Oh,
so
okay.
I had no idea that I was on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sydney Lancaster. I'm a visual artist. I sit on the board of CARFAC National as the Alberta rep to the national board with Helen. I also sit on the CARFAC Alberta board. A lot of things. I also wanted to take a moment to let you folks know at CANL, the CARFAC National President, Patty Lamb, wanted very much to attend this meeting today, but unfortunately he wasn't able to because there was a conflict with a meeting, on another Zoom meeting. with Carfax National staff, and I think some affiliate staff as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now in terms of trying to coordinate things across the country. So he sends his regrets. He really wanted to be here. On a personal level, it's a very interesting time. My studio is at home, so self-isolation isn't really that big a shift for me in some ways, but the implications of how this whole thing is rolling out is really interesting. I have an exhibition scheduled for the fall. Who knows what's going to happen with that, because that's going to, this lockdown is really going to shift all of the scheduling around that. I'm currently waiting to begin a low residency MFA program in Newfoundland. I was supposed to be going out there at the beginning of May. That is not happening for sure. They're tentatively looking at maybe the end of June. But even then, currently, the province of Newfoundland and Labrador requires anybody coming in from out of province to be completely self-isolating for 2 weeks as soon as they land. So that complicates things. They're talking about doing all online delivery, but they really don't want to do that because this is a low residency option where the in-person intensive is a vital part of the program. So the whole thing may be deferred. So I don't know. That's I'm up in the air. One of my eldest son is a freelance professional musician. He has lost all of his income, all of it, 100% of it. My second eldest son works for an artist run center. They are currently working from home. They're hoping that budgets and everything will hold out so that everybody can continue to be paid, but they don't know. His partner's in school right now, so that's a complication. There's lots of things like that going on. On an advocacy level, Carfax National is talking to affiliates across the country and working to coordinate efforts behind the scenes to be able to offer, hopefully, resources and support for artists in our sector. Do we have emergency funds? No, not right now, not as an organization. We don't. Carfax National doesn't have the budget for that either, which is a real concern because anecdotally I'm hearing of a lot of people who, like Helen, has lost all her income. There are lots of people who in our sector are teaching or doing, various sales venues and that kind of thing, and they're all canceled. They're losing that income. They're losing the income. They're losing money from deposits that have been paid. That kind of thing. So we're working on it. I'm hoping that we have a number of resources that we have shared online. I have a bunch of resources, but most of you probably have all of them already. I could share them by chat. It's a wait and see.
Right. Thank you, Sydney. Wendy.
Hello, my name is Wendy Mears. I work for the city of Red Deer. So we have closed our facilities until June 30th. So sounds like we're closed for a little bit longer than most people so far. So that means for us, our facility, we are canceling all our spring programs. We're hoping that we might be up and running in time for summer programs. We are still planning for fall. We haven't been able to move forward with online, but we're hoping to potentially move some of our special events that would have happened in June to an online platform. But that's just barely under consideration right now. And we also have a gallery, and the same thing as others, we're looking at extending the current show so that people can actually have access to that show. So that's us.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. And is there anyone else who does not have video that would like to speak? If you're able to message me, let me know, or put your hand up. I can, or else turn on your video if you did want to introduce yourself. All right, so Larry, if you want to go to the second question.
I have unmuted myself. I've succeeded in this technological thing. Okay, first of all, thank you. I mean, this paints a perhaps not unexpected picture, but all different dimensions of it. Some people are still on salary. Some people have no money at all. It's really it's very diverse. And before we move on to question 2, I'd like to ask, what kind of toll is this taking on you personally, like emotionally? I mean, it was Heather, I think, who said it's scary. I sense that there's a huge amount of anxiety, and maybe a couple of people would like to put their hand up and talk about what's going on with you personally, because each of us is sitting in our house. We're sitting in our houses trying to make the world work. And it seems to me that there's a lot of stress on everybody right now. Is that happening with you?
Yes, Shawn.
Well, I guess from my perspective, having been all through Europe as this was hitting, I kind of have the opposite idea. I come from the background of improvisation, and I know it's all about adapting. I hate to minimize it for anyone, but I know there are positive things that are coming out of this, as crazy as that it seems. I mean, in terms of the environment and all those other things. But I do think this is a really great opportunity to reassess what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can move forward. Personally, I don't have any work lined up until September, and I have a school that I'm starting up here in Calgary, but that's also may or may not happen. So some stress, but also kind of an understanding that the community is strong, that people are strong. I think the government is handling it in an okay way. So generally, I feel all right about it.
Thank you. Yes, Heather, I see you have your hand up. Also, if you go on the participants tab, you can virtually raise your hand. But yes, go right ahead, Heather.
Sorry, I'm not techie.
Yeah, no worries.
My husband laid off 24 staff, and our major income from his work was at Central Sewing. And so it's kind of scary because he doesn't, a big clientele is a lot of seniors. So it's kind of scary that, you know, there might not be that income. My income at the art gallery is very helpful right now, but they're going into a meeting and we don't know what's going to happen forecasted from now. Right now, I have a job, I have an income, so that's great, you know. But there's just a lot of things on the line personally and financially for us to make sure that A, my husband can run a business, B, I can be an artist, C, I can have a job at the art gallery and see what that works out. I'm not actually staff, I'm a contractor. So if anybody was to go, I'd probably be the first one to go.
Right. Thank you, Heather. Helen?
Okay, for me, it's I've been through the Fort McMurray fire where we were out of our home for a month, and we didn't know if our house was standing and what damage we were coming up to when we went back. So for me, I'm not too worried at the moment. I'm retired, so you know I have other income other than the market that I do. You know, for the time being, I'm doing more weaving than I did last year at this time, and I'm learning a few tech tech, like using Zoom. I'm supposed to, start doing a website for myself and things like that. So, maybe I can increase my knowledge in technology and increase my knowledge in my weaving practice. So for the moment, I'm good, but I miss face-to-face meeting and seeing people.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you. And Sydney.
There we go. Unmuted. Yeah, for myself, I'm okay. A lot of things up in the air, but that's fine. It's an unpredictable life that I lead. What income I have is going to be curtailed by the fact that, the gallery that shows my work is closed right now, and I don't know what's going to be happening with exhibitions. So that's a concern for me for my practice. Fortunately, my partner has a salary, so I'm not looking at how am I going to feed myself in 2 months if this continues to last. I recognize that privilege. That's a huge privilege right now. I'm more worried about my kids because, as I mentioned earlier, I have a son who's a professional freelance musician. I have a son who's working in artist run culture. I also have 2 daughters who are across the country in Nova Scotia. One has lost all of her income overnight. All of it's gone because she's self-employed. The other one works in the food industry, and I am increasingly concerned for her because of the amount of contact that she has to have with the general population, and because the incidence of infection is considerably lower in the eastern portions of the country. People are not being as careful with social distancing as they could be. So it's a nebulous kind of concern. And I'm also very worried about a number of people that I know in my sector, in my discipline, who are being really negatively emotionally impacted by this. The level of anxiety is right through the roof for some people, and it is a concern because those supports aren't there. So.
Right. Thank you, Sydney. Yeah, Larry, that's all the hands raised.
So, all right. So basically, you've been telling us the realities that are on the ground, and you do seem to be a stalwart group of people. Bless you. I think it might have something to do with the fact that artists are used to dealing with some level of uncertainty and incongruity in the creation of their artwork that maybe is helping you, but it's still, there's this great feeling of anxiety that I keep experiencing, and I'm glad that some folks are able to work around that. Our second question has to do with what you're doing. Now, some of you, I think a number of you have already mentioned what you're doing, that you're trying to move online and so on, how you're trying to cope with this situation. But maybe we could spend just a few more minutes on that. I'm particularly interested in, like you're saying, now we're using Zoom, or we're using other platforms. And I'm wondering how these platforms are, how well they're working for you. And, is there one you would recommend? And what are the problems with them? That, like, I mean, obviously you can't get in the same room, so that's a problem. But in terms of, we'll be able to say after we've run several of these sessions what the problems are with these sessions, and how well Zoom has worked for us. So how are things working for you? And what are you actually trying to accomplish?
And again, go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself if you want to hop in. Yes, Liana.
We have been quite successful with Zoom so far. The artist in residency participants are really, really positive. One of the comments was that they almost really felt like they were in the same room together. So it is, we're doing a director's stream, script to stage and what to consider. So there's 2 sessions a week through Zoom, and then there's homework, and then they come back and review and build on it from there. And so far, the limitations, the problems that we're having, as Sharon mentioned, is this completely leaves out our rural and Indigenous members and community members because of the lack of availability of technology and internet in many cases. So we're looking at recording these sessions and putting them onto USB and mailing them out to the band offices for distribution. If anybody is still working in those offices is the problem. So we're looking for any kind of ideas on how to reach out into rural communities with these limitations, as I'm sure so many of them do have. So anybody out there that's got something that's working, please share with us, because they're so cut off all the time anyways, and then something like this, as we know from the wildfire, just compounds that feeling of isolation and people not really caring. So if there are some good ideas out there, we love ideas, so help us out. Thanks.
Thanks, Liana. Nathene?
Hello. So with our music teachers group, some of them are trying Zoom. The problem with Zoom, and maybe we have a professional musician or two out there, it's not working so well with the music. Some of the settings, we're not able to disable the microphone and get onto actual music that hasn't been filtered for voice. So that's not working so well for many of us. Some of us are trying Skype, but there's time delays, and so we can't actually play or do that kind of thing with our student. We're looking at online MIDI. It's a program from Conservatory Canada. They use it in their flex exams, but each studio then needs to have a digital piano in each studio, and then it works extremely well, but both the teacher and the student have to be on that program. It's not expensive, but they both have to get into it and learn how to use it. Teachers are learning off of webinars at this time, all kinds of things. It's a rather stressful time, but we are a creative group of lovers of learning. So they're jumping in feet first. Hopefully within a week or two. For me personally, the biggest stress is just not knowing the timeline of this. If we look at the pandemic from 100 years ago, the Spanish flu in the US took a full year, and they were doing the same thing, social distancing, washing the hands, all that stuff. It was a full year. So barring a vaccine, I'm looking at a year. Worldwide, it was 3 years. So, and this is gonna have huge economic things, but as far as the question went, what are we doing now? We're trying to find a medium that will work easily for our teachers to learn quickly. And I was told Zoom, but I'm having issues with that. And so we're still hunting. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather, I saw that you had raised your hand earlier. Did you want to say something?
Are you talking about me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to scroll through, and I discovered that I can do it below, not up top. You know, again, I'm not very
That's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Well, yeah, does anybody else have any thoughts on what they're using right now, if they're able to take any measures at all to sustain your work, additional through digital or otherwise?
I guess I do have one thing. We're looking at doing some Instagram posts and some YouTube videos and that sort of thing. And that's kind of what I'm creating right now, is trying to create my programs so that we can share them and keep people engaged in what the art gallery is doing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Are other people making use of social media at all? Oh, I see some hands. Anne-Marie.
So our brand and communications department at the Windspear for the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, the musicians actually started their own Facebook page. So the symphony musicians have a specific Facebook page where they have been doing like a toilet paper challenge just to kind of keep things light and positive. And so some of our musicians are playing different pieces with toilet paper rolls on their bows or on their flute. And so just trying to keep things positive that way and engaging with the audience that loves them so dearly, and using social media that way, as well as the grant. I'm sorry that I don't know the specific one, but perhaps some of you will know what I'm talking about if I describe it properly. There's, I think, a really quick grant that came out between Facebook and the National Arts Center. And so I believe that our principal cellist, Raphael Hookman, and the organ player for the symphony, Jeremy Spurgeon, are going to collaborate on a concert that will be live streamed. So obviously exercising social distancing, but it's a big hall. And so doing the live stream of that performance will be on Thursday. So reaching our audience that way, using social media, and then also just like, again, you know, because you want to bring joy to people in a time of uncertainty. And so there's also posts on our Windspear Facebook page, the Edmonton Symphony Facebook page, the ESO's musicians specific page, that they are they're like sharing things that are like their dog at home and how it's impeding on their work and things like that. So just like kind of trying to still be relevant and engaging with the community and do what we do, which is fulfill that human need to make and share music, and in some form. And so, yeah, the social media platform has been really positive for us. We have also the Youth Orchestra of Northern Alberta. So our Yona Sistema program, which is like the 3 hours a day after school. They have free music centered programming, where they get like homework help, and it's for priority neighborhoods in Edmonton. So that's obviously been canceled. And so those teachers who work in that program with us, they've been experimenting, I think, with Zoom and other platforms as well, in order to maintain contact, because with those students, it's the Yona program is such a huge part of their life that taking that away is like a major concern. So, yeah.
Right, right. Thank you. And Caitlin posted a link in the chat about the grant that you were talking about. And I think, do I recall it's called Empty Stages or something like that? Empty Venues, Empty Halls, something. Maybe that's a different one. But yeah, Caitlin posted that there for you. Sydney.
There. Yeah, for Carfax, Alberta has been using webinars for all access professional development for quite some time. So there's already that system in place. But our executive director is also exploring Zoom. And I've worked with the online webinar platform before. It includes PowerPoint Online, which is a great, so you get the voice and then you can also run a PowerPoint and speak to those slides. That's always worked fairly well. I'm new to Zoom, but I'm finding I've used this platform a couple of times now over the last week, and I'm finding it's quite good. I can see the problem for music though. Definitely, it's definitely going to be, that's definitely an issue. So there's, I'm wondering if maybe some of the folks at the Windspear might have some hints for teaching, or some of the musicians at the Windspear might have some tech that they're using to do remote collaborations that might help the music teachers. Just a thought. So it's interesting. I'm wondering what it's going to look like down the road, and whether this is going to be a shift that we're going to see, that there's going to be a lot more online delivery, less in-person stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how that works anyway. For myself, it's an opportunity. I've got to up my, redo the website, get on social media more often. I'm seeing a lot of artists posting more heavily to their Instagram feeds, doing lots more works in process, lots of collaborative stuff online through Instagram and through other venues like that. So it's, yeah, they're coping mechanisms and ways to work. You know, the daily prompt to draw something, the daily prompt to paint something, the daily prompt to post something. So I think that's a way of keeping connected too.
Right, thank you. I know that at my son's school, the choir director there they posted on Twitter that they were trying to do a choir rehearsal via Zoom with all these boys. So I don't know how that went. Apparently, I think they muted quite often, but people are trying. People are trying everywhere. Anybody else have anything to say in that particular? Yes, Shawn.
Yeah, I do think there's got to be a shift in our thinking as well. If we think that we can do what we've been doing in the same way and hope that technology can keep us doing it in the same way, I think that's a really big mistake. We're just going to be working uphill. For many of us, I think we have to learn to adapt what we're doing to the reality until technology reality can change, until we're all wearing VR glasses and it feels like we're in the same place. But there needs to be slight adjustments for musicians and for performers like myself who work in a physical environment, and this is taboo. It's a talking head, and it's not what we want in the theater world. So yeah, I think it's a balance of let's find the technology that works for us, but let's also adapt and find out how we can work within the technology that exists until technology can catch up with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Larry, did you want to? Don't think anyone else has anything to add.
Okay, good. Yes, well, here's a question that's really important to me, and I don't know how people are coping with this, but it seems to me, well, we know that the arts can be very helpful to people in situations like the fire and all sorts of disaster situations, and we're having a kind of disaster situation here. So is any of the work that you're doing, whatever you are doing, directed toward this particular, pandemic, toward the people, what people are going through in the pandemic? In fact, I think I heard someone said, giving people a bit of joy. What have you tried to do, or is there a way that you've been able to do some of your work at all to help the community make it through this pandemic?
For myself, just to chime in one more time, I know that I'm in a fairly good position, but I've run across people, again, who've lost family members and who are watching body bags fill up in their countries. I would feel really uncomfortable to set up workshops and things and say, here's my fee, this is how much it costs. So I'm altering to pay what you can and offering scholarships to those who come to my classes, because there's no way I feel comfortable feeling bad that I'm not making money, but they're not having a life, and it's much worse. So I want to offer something back to the community and share in the struggle.
Thank you. Anyone else? And how they're gonna, even if you're not doing anything right now, in the future, what your thoughts are about helping the community go through this. It's very interesting to hear Fort McMurray, and obviously you've built resilience from what you've gone through, and the tools that you've developed within that, and so that's been really interesting to hear. Nathene.
Hello, and just a shout out as well to Fort McMurray. We were up there for 15 years for the Mariana Lake fires. My husband's a wildfire specialist, so we had a good time. So I'm glad to hear you're still kicking. As far as us, it's still so new in this. We just got back from the Dominican 15 days ago, and we walked in off the airplane And there was nothing told to us. We were just told to wash our hands and didn't hear about self-quarantine for 3 days. So it's coming along so quickly in the 15 days. One of the things that, I don't know if you heard about Kara Brown, she's one of our members, and she's singing opera from a condo in Edmonton, right, from the door. So I mean, we're starting to, as we get a little more breath in our bodies, we do want to reinvent what we're doing. We do want to bring some joy. And for instance, I live in a cul-de-sac. I have a professional drummer next door. I have a guy who plays in a band guitar across the road. We have a girl at the end of the cul-de-sac, 17, who's won musical theater awards all over Calgary. And so I said, let's just get in our driveways. We'll practice online and just do a few songs. And, you know, and I thought it was gonna be so fun. I even went as far as saying, let's make a 15 square foot two-part area in the middle of the cul-de-sac and have dance-offs one at a time. And, you know, I thought this would be so fun. And then we get blasted, people going, you should stay in your house. You should not do anything. And I'm like, yes, but we're still alive, and yes, we can still celebrate. And I think it's good for our immune systems to laugh and have joy and have fresh air and sunshine, and we're not anywhere near anybody else. So I know we have to balance and not be too over top. We're not going to advertise this and have crowds. I just thought it'd be something fun to do. But I think I do agree, we need to reinvent sort of how we do things and what we do. I'm looking for creative ideas because we have such great talent and such great artistic people. You know, we should be able to figure things out. I wish we had hindsight from 6 months ago right now, or in the future right now. That would be really nice. So yes, we're trying to gradually think of some fun things to do other than being online as well and keeping our social distancing. Maybe we can come up with a title for those kinds of events. I don't know what, but we're in a great group here. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And Sharon.
Hi, so my job title is Recovery in the Arts, and it's a result of the wildfire, a 2-year program, and I'm into the last 6 months of that. So right now, we're still doing what we started out to do, and we have that hindsight. It's a different kind of a problem in the sense that we had everyone scattered outside, and we were trying to bring them together. And the irony of this, of course, is we don't want people to come together. And one of the things that we know from all the surveys, and believe me, I have every study you ever want to see on what happens and the value of the arts post-disaster and how important it is to recovery and to rebuilding main streets and to rebuilding community, all of those things. That has been my life for 2 years. So post-fire, what we knew to be very important was that we had to heal the artist first. Because there was so much pressure on these, similar that it is now. We're talking about how the lowest paid, the frontline workers, the people who are delivering our food, the truck drivers, etc. There is an enormous pressure on them, and they are the people with the fewest resources. It was similar post-wildfire in that every single person in this town that was involved in the wildfire was involved in some sort of fundraiser of some kind. And what did they want for free? I'm a visual artist, donate my painting, donate your pottery. The musician was asked to play for free, all of those things, which are awesome, but these are the people who had the fewest resources and had suffered the most. We're in a very, very similar situation now. So I'm still doing what I'm doing, and our goal and through Arts Council is to empower the artists, and my job in recovery is to do that by providing the things that they've asked us. We did a fabulous survey, rural, indigenous. We know that the rural need is different than the urban need. I have all of this and I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. But we know that the best things that artists needed wasn't, one, an opportunity to rub shoulders with other artists, to tell their stories, to have an opportunity, because every time the artists got together, some amazing creative thing happened. I mean, someone wrote a play because of a conversation they had with a drummer, or you know, like that's what artists do. While we all work in isolation to a certain degree, we depend a lot on that interactivity for our creativity. So we're still doing that. We're just doing it in a different way. We're not bringing people together in physical things. We did a really fun thing called Arts Match, where we physically kind of used a dating thing to bring people together in a room and share their needs. It was hugely successful. It's now become a twice-a-year event. So we're doing it a little differently, but we're still doing is empowering artists by giving them an opportunity to do their work and be paid to do it. So that is a big chunk of what we do. Now, how we translate that, you know, I work with a group of 5 women called the Northern Crones. We're all painters. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. It'll be something. Believe me, it'll be something. But we'll figure that out because we're creative people and we have to count on that. But what we're doing as an organization, what Arts Council of Buffalo is doing, is that we are finding ways to still. So as I'm working on this Getting to Sold workshop, I'm going to call on artists that I know have been successful in certain ways to be paid, to do a cameo, to talk about how to get their business license, what marketing worked and didn't work, why it's important to have a business license, how to be professional and have a business format. Just down and dirty, gritty stuff that every day keeps us solid and engaged and moving forward. Like sometimes you just got to put one foot in front of the other, and that's what we're really good at in Fort McMurray. We're just going to do it in a little different way. So Shawn, like Shawn said, we got to be creative. It's what we do, folks. Come on, it's what we do. Like, get your crap together. Like, let's be as creative as we can be in this process. People turn to the arts for healing. They want their music. They want their visuals. They want their plays. We have it. We just need to be more creative in how we do it. And right now, you know, aside from the frontline workers, which I would never dismiss in a million years, those people are feeding their bodies. We are feeding their souls. And we've been doing it since time eternal, since we drew in caves. So time to dust it all off, folks. It's our time on the stage. It just may not be the stage we thought. I feel very strongly about this. I just, I think we have to be positive. And I mean, I've spent the past 2 years listening to one-on-one disaster stories, literally. I mean, absorbing other people's grief, you know, why they turned left and didn't turn right, or how they had their cat under their arm and went out their front door while their house was on fire. So I am telling you, what we were about to do is super important, and we can do it. This is not new in Fort McMurray. We're just tackling a different problem, but there's been disasters all over the world. It's our new norm, and we just need to, no benchmarking, folks. We're setting, like, benchmarking is looking backwards. Let's like turf the benchmarking and look forward. And my boss will know I'm now off my soapbox. But I feel very strongly about this. It's up to us. Like, we have the creativity. Like, we can whine about it, or we can put on our creative hats and get to work. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney. Yeah, I've noticed on social media, so many artists are now performing and offering their live performances from a variety of venues, and it's all free. So you know, that's wonderful, and it's necessary for healing for everybody, and people are really enjoying it, but at the same time it's free. So how can artists take advantage of that, even if it's something as simple as, here's my PayPal, if you would, you know, if you wouldn't mind sending me a donation, whatever. I've seen Pilates instructors do that too. You know, it's you know, how can people put food on the table, artists, when they're giving it away for free? And it's certainly not their fault. It's wonderful that they're doing it. But as you mentioned, so often in regular life, when it's not a disaster, artists are expected to perform for free or provide something for free. It's so it is certainly a challenge. Does anybody have anything to add on to what Sharon has said? And people are asking if we can share contact information. We can certainly, if everyone is in agreement, I can certainly do that, or you can contact me at the info@eduarts.ca and ask for someone's specific info, and I can ask them if it's okay that I share that with you. So there is certainly a way to get in contact afterwards. And again, you can message people directly right now on the chat if you want to ask somebody for their email information, etc. So please feel free. We want people to be getting something from this, of course. And Caitlin has just posted what we've done. Caitlin has been compiling a list of resources province by province, and also actually Caitlin, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Sure. So it's a list of resources that I've compiled. It includes information about financial aid, emergency aid available to artists in Canada. Not as you don't have to be an artist necessarily for all of them. It includes digital resources online that might be useful, be it learning platforms or content sharing platforms. It also includes information specific to provinces and even further by some cities. Yeah, I've been updating it pretty much every single day since last week. So yeah, feel free to check it out. And if you want to email me any resources that you know of, that would be wonderful. I will share my email address right now.
Yes, other resources that we're looking at creating, and we do have a lot of this information. I don't know, several of you are likely on Canada's map of arts and learning, have profiles, but if you're not, we encourage you to get on there. We're looking at creating a specific directory of artists who teach remotely online, so people can access that from all over Canada, and hopefully everybody's got a lot of time on their hands if they want to learn a new art form. Yeah, artists can also, you know, as they're already doing, we'll just spread the word and help promote who's doing that already. And Liana posted as well. Yeah, so I guess that is into Larry, our final question here, actually.
Okay, and I wanted to also mention, and thank you for very much for telling us about the resources. I was thinking when you were during the conversation that we have a resource that was developed by it was a research project in music, and we have a link to it. We sort of are a partner in it. It's on our resources page. I went looking for it and I found all the other resources Caitlin has been posting. So there is quite a lot on there. But I also wanted to mention that is it this Thursday, the federal minister of culture is doing a webinar through business for the arts. Isn't that who's doing it, Jennifer? Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are 500 places. So how can we share that, because some people will have received it, some people won't.
Yes, we'll be sending a follow-up email tomorrow, okay. So we'll share the link in that.
Because I think that some of these questions about how are artists going to be supported and so on are going to be hopefully going to be answered. So we had scheduled one of these for another part of the country at the sort of overlapping. So we've shifted our time so that, because we want to be actually participating in that as well, and find out how these ideas, how these new how the funding models are going to look for artists and artist educators. The final question really is just, and we'll sort of, you know, we can wrap after this, is that we're a network that wants to support the sector. We have, the only money we have at the moment is for our digital project. So we're not, you know, bursting with funds or anything, but we do have connections, obviously, in a big mailing list, and we have our map. We have some resources. So if there was something that you thought our organization could do or could promote to help people through this time, and to help artists and artist educators and just all people like yourselves, heads of arts councils and so on. Yes, what would you like to see us try to do additionally?
Heather, I think you need to unmute.
Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry, Sydney. Yes, please go ahead, Sydney.
Do you want me to go again?
I don't
Yeah,
want to.
I actually, sorry, I was saying I was muted, but yes, you were first. Go ahead, Sydney. Sorry.
Okay. I just want to, this is related to Larry's question, but also sort of the flip side on and with the webinar with the Minister of Culture coming up and all of that kind of thing. One of the things that is going to be vitally important, regardless of what sector we are in arts and learning, is that we're also documenting our losses at this point in time. Everything that you lose, like, you know, every deposit that Helen lost on a market, every gig, you know, every service that a professional musician has lost because of the closure of the Windspear, every lesson that was on the books that has now been scrapped, all of that stuff has to be documented. The only way we're going to be able to give all levels of government a really accurate sense of the impact that we're facing, because so many of us are gig workers, is if we document all of those losses to death, because then you can turn around and say, this is the impact for these individuals in this sector. This is the impact for these individuals in this sector. What can you do to provide practical relief? So it's just something going forward. And it's something that I've been yarping endlessly to everybody that I know in my sector, but it applies right across the board. It has to happen. Maybe that's something that CANL could help with. There's two things happening there. One is access to resources for individuals and organizations. The other is documenting, getting the hard data that we can turn around and you know, a year from now say, this was the impact on the arts and culture sector of COVID-19. This is what the arts and culture sector has been able to do in response to it. This is where we need to go from here. So there's some very practical tools that we need.
Yes, thank you. I know maybe Larry can speak on that a little bit later. We do have some plans to that, towards that. Wendy.
Okay, I just wanted to, I was very interested in what Caitlin was saying, and part of what my job is we, you know, trying to work with the artists in the community, and any kind of resources that we can share to help people deal with this difficult time, anything that is, you know, that can be done to help them, whether it is educational things or places that they can look at, that ways that they can look to earn an income, or suggestions for things that other communities are doing that is working. And you know, that what Sharon was talking about, ways to keep artists connected to each other, any of those resources that if people can share those and get them out to other people, it's a big part of what I try to do here with my position, is to support our local artists. So yeah, I think that sharing of resources would be super helpful.
Okay, great, thanks, Wendy. Helen.
Yes, just to repeat a little bit what Sydney was mentioning is if you have you know, a close ear to a minister in Ottawa, you know, to talk about all of these losses for artists that have no income, and so far they've announced no benefit for this type of people. I think it would be good to know that somebody is talking to us, talking to Ottawa about our situation. I know Carfax National is advocating for it, but if we have many organizations who does it, it may come to the right ears, or it may come in an appropriate time when the government is ready to look at the situation of artists that has no income whatsoever.
Great, thank you. Someone else had their hand up, but it's down now. I see that Ida has joined us. Ida, I don't know if you, did you want to introduce yourself? We're kind of a moment here. Yeah.
Hi, Ida from Athabasca, Alberta, and teach in a small rural community, and I'm scrambling to figure out a format to teach online with right now. And also the challenge with making sure small festivals this summer have a contingency plan. I'm part of a Magnificent River Rats Festival Society, and we run a festival June 30th and July 1st, and we hire emerging and established groups to play at our festival. And now we're sitting hopefully optimistic. Well, I'm going to wait till May 1st to make the final decision how they will proceed. And this has affected our youth because now they can't even prepare at school to come to the festival. And it's uncharted waters for my group and myself, and lots of online learning.
Thanks, Ida. Thanks. Anne-Marie, you had something to...
Yeah, sorry, it was me who...
yeah.
I don't know what happened, sorry. So I just wanted to like echo what Helene said, in that if there is somebody in that sort of federal government level that is closely connected to you or anybody in the organization, that would be very beneficial. Speaking from like the symphony side of things, right, there is a union in place, and that's somewhat helpful. But personally, my partner is also a professional freelance musician and has lost 100% of his work for the foreseeable future. It's really playing on our anxiety and our checkbooks, and you know, it would be nice to have clarification in the wording for the supports that the federal government has rolled out, because it is a little bit unclear. You know, we've heard, and it's very positive for those who need it with the EI supports and things like that, and waiving deadlines or moving deadlines and everything like that. But for artists and musicians and everybody who like, they're not necessarily unemployed right now because they're still musicians or they're still artists. It's that their work disappeared. And so, yeah, it would be really wonderful to get clarification on that soon. And I didn't know about the webinar on Thursday, so I appreciate that.
Yes, I did post the link, and apparently you can submit questions by 3 p.m. tomorrow. So if you want to take part in that, absolutely.
What is that webinar?
The webinar with the Minister of Canadian Heritage. And so it's happening Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So there is, as Larry said, 500 spots for the webinar. I'm sure they'll go quickly. I did, if you scroll up, I put the link there for, it's a zoom.us link up there, and that is, it's run by Business for the Arts. So absolutely encourage you to take part in that and get some questions, hopefully some questions answered. We're all really interested. Yes, and anyone else have any comments on how the network can kind of help you at this point and going forward? Certainly, actually, Larry, do you want to talk about our plans to, with this information and with these transcripts from these meetings, from the polls, etc., we are preparing reports and letters, and there is a plan to prepare a letter for the Prime Minister and other ministers as well. So, yeah.
Well, you said that very well. I don't have to say that. But I did want to say we have one friend in Ottawa that some of you know, of course, is Senator Pat Bovey. And she just, and I know she's not in the government, in the House of Commons, but she's an influential person there who's very, very committed to the arts, and has just published an open letter, which I haven't even had a chance to read. Have you read it yet, Jennifer? It's just,
not yet. Just got
but
it.
we're posting it as well, yes? So
yeah.
we're posting it to our website. That might help you at some point, but it's certainly, it's nice to know we have a friend in Ottawa, and I think we have more friends. and we will try to do some lobbying based on what we're hearing from you folks.
Yes.
Okay, I think we have had a wonderful conversation. Thank you all very much for joining us and for contributing. And we will be collecting information from, actually that's kind of important. We'll be having a report which will include all the ideas from all of the sessions we're doing across the country. So have a look at the report. We'll get it to you in I guess it has to be a couple of weeks because we have to run through all of the sessions that we're doing, but it may help you. There may be ideas from another part of the country from someone who's trying something that would be useful to you. So we will get that to you. I think there's a way, Jennifer, we could send it to everybody who's participated through email or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who, like Ida, who just joined, we'll be sending the recording of this meeting as well if you want to go back over it. And also the chat will be there, so you can take a look at the links when we send that as well. So, and we'll be sending a follow-up survey as well. And if anything does come from this session or anything that the network has done, please, anything positive or, we're all looking for funding. So any kind of stories of something that may have come out of this, please let us know. And that helps us greatly. So,
So thank you all.
Yes.
And all the very best of luck.
Yes, and we'll be in
Thanks,
touch.
everyone. Take care. Stay healthy.
Take care. Be
Thank you.
well.
You
Be
too.
well. Yeah.
Bye.